let's hope.
So, and
Let's hope.
anyhow, I'm leaving for Poland on in October, and I will be in Warsaw on Thursday, the 11th. I believe it's the 11th of October. I want to get there in time to go to shul on Friday night. And in Warsaw. I'm meeting up with the other people. Some of them will be there on Friday. Everybody that is going on the tour will be there by Sunday, and we will have a short tour of the city of Warsaw and have dinner together, and we're hoping that the Ozarow rabbi from Israel will also be there to join us. And
he's a grandson of Rab Moishe. I saw Rab Moishe in Israel, Tel Aviv, because my uncles, they were friends. They used to go to the yeshiva together. And him, Tachne, what is his name?
Well, before he moved to Israel,
This was his grandfather.
the grandfather lived in New York.
Right.
And my parents and I went to a relative's wedding in New York, and my father and I went to visit the rabbi, and his young son was still alive at the time. And I believe you know that he drowned at the age of 9.5 while his father was visiting Israel and had to come back. And I met the rabbi and met his son, and seems like I've met all the rabbis from Ozarow.
Yeah. This one who's going to go, he's going to Ozarow.
Yes.
The rabbi from Israel
Yes.
now.
Menachem Becker.
Becker. He has his father-in-law here.
Yes, Rabbi Burek from the Beth
because
Jacob Synagogue.
I went when he came quite about 10, 12 years ago. He came, so they sent for me. I came in and I looked at him. It's not like a rabbi here in Canada. A rabbi here in Canada, Yobu, Nishbu, Dukeles, with a couple, with a staff, but he came down from on the steps by Rabbi Burek. You know.
But you know he grew up in the United States.
Yeah. But his grandfather lived in Israel.
Yes.
Rab Moishe.
Yes.
I went to Israel to see him.
Well, I've met Rabbi Becker in Toronto
Rabbi,
on several occasions.
Rabbi Becker, I met him a few times.
Yeah.
Because he said he's going to write a book. Not him, but another one. He brought another fellow.
Rabbi Letterin.
This is something, this is a miracle with him. This is a miracle. His parents were in, his father, parents, were in Paris.
Yes, he grew up in Paris.
He brought them to Israel. I saw him at his uncle, his brother's father, his father's brother, Pinion. He's in Israel too. He came to my uncle there in Tel Aviv, introduced me for him. I said, Pinion, I don't have to be introduced. You know who I am, and I know who you are. So this one said he wants to write a book. So I told him about his parents, because I knew them very well. And he's also, his father had only one sister. There were 4 boys, I think. One was being used in New York, and the rest, one is in Israel after the war. He was in Russia, and this came a big man, Letterman. But
Yeah,
the father has only one sister, and the sister, she became a Catholic. Before the war, today, okay, but before the war or something. But I told her, he wanted to know from his family. I say, yes, I can tell you everything because they were by the shul, lived there by the shul.
I wouldn't be surprised if this rabbi also comes to Ozarow with Rabbi Becker. He's in Israel
Possible.
with him. You know, Rabbi Becker moved from Tel Aviv to Bnei Brak.
Yeah.
He's now located in Bnei Brak.
Ja, maar Stadt, wie is dat?
Eishdat.
Stadt.
Eishdat, the man.
I was many times I was to the dinners they made.
Yes, I've been to them too.
I was many times, but lately when they make, I mostly go a few days before to Florida. I can change, so I send them.
Yeah, they're now having a function in November.
November,
Yes,
so that's
yeah.
why I'm in every time in
Yeah.
November. But his father's name, it was Yaakov Jobo.
Let's go back to your life. Where did you meet your husband? Was he from Ozarow?
No. He was born in Rachiv. Rachiv is 16 kilometers from our town. There where they took us to the mines to work with the mines, but I didn't know him that time. He worked that time in the mines.
So where did you meet him?
We met him in Feldafing, in Germany, after the war.
So after the Russians came in and you were liberated, where did you go?
No, I was liberated by the Americans.
I thought it was the Russians came in.
No, the Russians came in to Częstochow. So they took us, in the same day they took us out. They took us to Bergen-Belsen.
Mm-hmm.
From Bergen-Belsen, we were there for 5 weeks. They took us to another.
The Germans took you.
Yeah.
Yes.
They took us to Burgau.
Birkenau.
No. A different.
No.
Not Burgenau.
No.
Burgenau was in Auschwitz.
Oh.
Burgau. So then they took us to Turkheim. From Turkheim, they took us to Dachau, Halach Dachau, but we walked. How many days it took us, I don't know. It came at night, so they were, of course, they were also tired that they have to walk with us. They put us to a mine. We had to lay down to sleep. So we lay down on the floor of the mine was mud. Some lay down on the mud, some of us came out to lay on the little stones, some like on the gravel. Early morning, we walked again. And we walked to Dachau.
Okay.
In Dachau, walked into the Jewish place because everybody, Judenlager. That was the Jewish concentration camp. So we stayed there in Allach, Dachau. We stayed there for a few days. Then we were at the end of the camp. The other side was the Hitlerjugend. They shoot through with the Hitlerjugend. They threw hand grenades or something. So they came, Poles, a lot of Poles. They had the camp not far from us. So they heard we talk Polish. So they didn't know that we're Jewish. They thought they never heard a Polish word from a woman. So here come so many people, they speak Polish too. So they took us in, they screamed, come on, come in Polish, come on, we're gonna hide you. So we went, a lot of them. I walked and I held the girl, her hand, the other one, the shrapnel. What heißt the shrapnel?
Shrapnel.
The grenade.
Yeah.
So fell close to her and she got killed right away. They couldn't stop, I ran. So we went there, they took us, they had bunkers, the Poles, what they wanted in Dachau too. So they took us into their bunkers. They they stayed there for 2 weeks, 2 days. And after the 2 days, they open up the door and they say, come on, girls, we are freed. Come on, we are free. So little by little we were afraid because we knew they're Poles. Maybe they want to kill us. But they didn't mean to kill us. They just, first of all, they didn't know if we're Jewish or not. So that we ran out, and we saw somebody says, the Americans are here. So we ran up to see them. In the meantime, to run, we saw like copious with potatoes, I don't know how you call it, where they had the potatoes for the winter or late. It was open that time. They opened it up for the spring, for the late spring. So I had, when we went out for Bergen-Belsen, they took us off the clothes, the stripe. They gave us normal clothes. What was the normal clothes? Again, this thing, but they gave us a coat. Somebody has a short coat, somebody has a long coat. I was lucky, they gave me a long coat till here, a herringbone coat. So when I came, saw those potatoes, so I didn't run to the American person, the soldiers, but I ran, took out potatoes, pulled up for the coat, put the potatoes, and I ran back where other girls were. That we showed them that we have potatoes we can eat.
So you ate them raw. So when did the Americans come in?
The Americans came in
Shortly after?
April 29. That was the day they came into Dachau.
So where did you meet your husband?
My husband I met because after Dachau we were 5 weeks there. So they took us, the Americans took us to Feldafing. It was by Munich, 30 kilometers away from Munich. There they took us out to blocks. The blocks were where the soldiers were before.
Barracks.
Or the Hitlerjugend was there also. So they took us in there. And they gave us a room, was 55 girls in that room. Okay, we came quite a few people, but in our room was 55 girls. We were three stocks with the bridges.
Bunks.
3 bunks. So, but you know, we were young. Not that we forgot that we didn't know if everybody's killed or not killed. We didn't know.
How old were you when they took you out of Ozarow?
16. It's the nicest years, teenage years.
Yes.
So they took us. In Allach, so we stick together 10 girls.
Were any of them from Ozarow?
Was together.
Were any of them from Ozarow? Any of these 10 girls?
Yeah, but she's in Israel. Helen Klaiman, also Klaiman. So, but I don't want to mix up. Actually, I ran after her because when they picked in Chelmsford where to go, one side they says picked me to go this side, but I ran at the other side because I saw her. I was brought to Skaržisk, to the factory, with my older sister, but they killed her. older before Pesach, 10 days before Pesach, in 44.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I was alone. But I saw she stays on the other side. That's Helen Klaiman. I ran to her. So the SS knew me because I worked for him for so many years. So he took me again here. 3 times I ran away till I wind up in the other side. That's why I went to Germany. Otherwise, I would be freed in
Poland.
in Poland, in Częstochowa. But then, after we got freed from the Americans in Al-Hachtachau, so were 10 girls were together was gehalten, eins. So then we were in that block, so in the hall, it was a long hall. So we were playing, dancing, singing, and dancing in the blocks. And I got sick. I had, must be laryngitis or something, I don't know, I couldn't talk. So all the friends might say, why can't you talk? Because you were singing and dancing, you were sweating, you were crying. So anyways, there was a revere. This was like a hospital. I went there, they took me into the hospital. They gave me steam. And I was in the hospital that time, and my husband had broken ribs from the Germans. So he was also dead in the same hospital. But they didn't see no woman before. They didn't have no woman in their place. So that time, the light went off in the blocks where we were, the hospital where we were. So we had to go to the washroom. We went to the washroom, 3 of us, hold it by hand in the dark, went to the washroom. We came back outside, so there were 2 guys standing, and they had a candle in their hand. They had a candle, so we're happy we see something. So that time, they took us into that room where we were. And my husband stayed by the bed. He asked me, from where are you? I told him. Then I said, go home because we have to go to sleep. To the other guy here, go home, we have to go to sleep. They went to sleep. The next day, he came in, he made a bubalo. You know what's mean a bubalo?
For Pesach.
He brought a bubalo. Let's see how to get the word for it. And he asked, did I took you there in the hall? Did I see you in the hall? Which one I saw? So the other girls, she says, her you saw in the hall. So he brought over this bubalo.
Pancake.
So since then, but we didn't get married so soon. Also, we were alone. I was alone. I didn't have nobody. He had a brother. He has a brother. But still, I said, then we were talking, maybe we get married, maybe this. I said, no. I found out that my uncles are in Israel. I knew they were in Israel, but I wasn't in touch with them yet. In Montreal, a cousin wrote me a card that his brother lives somewhere in Russia. So I said, I don't want to get married. If to get married, I want to have a nice wedding. And I want to show my relatives in Canada, that I had a really wedding. So anyways, we met August 10th, in 45, after the war. But we got married July the 7th, 55. So 25 years. Came to Toronto. When we came down, it was Thanksgiving, 48. Thanksgiving Day in October, 10th of October, 10th of October. And I saw Toronto. Is this America? Is this America? A city like this? It was nothing. It was like it's not.
Not like today. Getting back to Ozarow,
Yeah.
were the streets paved or were they just dirt roads?
Most of them were paved.
The
Yes.
main streets were paved.
Yes. Yeah. Most of them were paved. Where your grandparents were was paved, ours were paved, and it was Ulica Trzeciego Maja. That was the main street where everybody walked, spazieren.
Is that the street that led right up to the shul?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a really nice street, nice houses, stores, rich people, very nice. It was a nice street. Ulica Trzeciego Maja.
I understand that the streets were named after the city that they led to. Like if you took this street to go to this city, that's what they called that street.
That was we called the road of Nostrovce Weg, of Tarle Weg. The shul was by the Tarle Weg. The road what goes to Tarle.
Mhm.
This side where we were was to Lubelska. I don't know why it was. It was the shul on this side. The police station was also on our street. The school was on our street. The city hall was on our street. It was a long street. But the nicest street was Ulica Lubelska.
Because the main inhabitants of Ozarow were Jewish,
Yeah.
in the city hall, were they Jewish or Polish?
Most was Polish.
The mayor was Polish?
The mayor was, of course, the mayor was Polish. By my time, Adamski. What's his name, Adamski? Good guy.
Do you recall or did you ever hear about the curse of the cemetery? The story about the curse of the cemetery? There was a Jewish man that escaped to Russia during the war. He came back, I believe Russia. He came back from Russia and he stood by the cemetery, looking at the cemetery, and there were a number of Polish residents that heard that there was a Jew back. They came to see him. Also, the priest from the church came, and he told them that if one mitzvah, one stone, is harmed in this cemetery, the same fate will befall them that happened to the Nazis. And from that time on, not one stone was disturbed in the cemetery. Nobody went on it, and that's why it was filled with debris and brush and trees that had fallen over, stones fell over, but it's believed that nobody caused any damage there. And this is called the curse of Ozarow.
This I don't know. But the teachers were Poles. One, I don't know how you, I know Moishe because they had the one from the city hall, the secretary, the main from the city hall. They had a beautiful home, beautiful. They were rich, a beautiful home. They were, of course, he was educated. He wasn't born in Ozarow. He was born in a big city, but for my times, he was in Ozarow.
So you went to the school there,
I went to the school.
the Polish school.
Sure.
Did you learn English at all?
I went to a Yiddish school too.
Yeah.
It was a Baisiarke. They didn't taught English.
They didn't teach English there.
No, no. The only thing what they did is they had an hour for religious things. So the priest came for the day for an hour to teach the Gentile
Catholics.
kids, because the Gentile kids didn't come from Moshe so many, nothing, but they came from around the city.
The suburbs, the outside.
They came. So he went and teach them. So we had a Jewish guy, a teacher. He taught us, he told us story in Yiddish, which I went to Beis Yaakov too. It was a beautiful Beis Yaakov, a lot of kids. It came Friday night, we went to daven, went to pray. It was Saturday morning. We came to pray. It was a funny thing. We didn't start like I start here. I go every Saturday here to pray. But we start like here would be in the middle, but we start by I don't know if you know about the religious thing, Nishmas. We started by Nishmas with daven, and it came in the afternoon. So we went also to this Beis Yaakov, and every group had a leader. One from the leaders is in New York. From my leaders is in New York. She lived through.
My mother had a sister in Hamilton that her and her husband actually sponsored my mother to come to Canada. And she married a Roshward. I understand your maiden name was Roshward.
I'm a second cousin to Joey.
Joey Roshward. But this was Sam Roshward. I think there is a relationship there, but it's quite distant. And his father and his family stayed in Ozarow, but my uncle brought over a brother and a sister. Sister was in Montreal. The brother you knew from Toronto here, Norman Roshward, Newton. He was active in the Ozarow Society. I think you knew him. Anyhow,
which one?
Newton Roshward.
You're talking about
Nathan's brother. Yeah.
I knew the father.
Yeah.
I knew their
And that's what I was going to
father.
ask you. Did you know the father's name was Mendel?
I think so.
Mendel.
But they had quite a lot of few kids. I know. I remember
13
the
children.
boys, the
13
boys.
children.
How many?
13.
Yeah.
But from the second wife. The
They
first
had-
wife, they had 3.
I don't know how you call it. They had a Maglovnitz, what gemangelt the Wäsch.
And in the book on Ozarow
The
that
two
Hillel,
boys, I remember.
Adler wrote, he talked about this wonderful machine, the first one in Ozarow, where everybody took their Shabbos tablecloths to be washed.
Not washed.
No?
Washed nicht.
No?
They didn't
Pressed?
wash. Pressed.
Oh, pressed, sorry.
But you call it a Maglovnitz. That's what I just told you.
Yeah.
A hoiche mit a lange Buet. I remember his wife and the little kids. I remember the 2 older boys.
So you knew Nathan from Toronto here,
Nathan, yeah. Matter of fact, I met Nathan's wife this week,
Sophie.
Sophie.
Yeah.
And she walks with a cane. For her age, Kanena horror. She recognized me right away. She talks, how's your husband, how are the kids? And her youngest son is in the same age. I took younger than my son. We were together in the hospital. But she lived on Robert Street.
Robert Street, yes.
My aunt was on Robert and Harbor. She had the grocery. When I came, I was just talking about her. When I came to Toronto, she came to see me. And it was a meeting for the ladies' auxiliary, right a week after we arrived. So she came and took me to the ladies' auxiliary. She introduced me for the people from the ladies' auxiliary. So I knew them.
But you knew
And
the
I
family.
told her,
Yeah.
but she doesn't come. I say, I talked about you too, but I say, Mette, he came to see me
She
at the
knows me.
cemetery by the Yiske. She says, what Yiske? What Yiske? I said, listen, Sophie, you're going to tell me that you don't know that we have a Yiske? Es ist beleidigt. I know was is beleidigt, but it's none of my business.
Are there many members of the Ozarow Society that are actually from Ozarow or descendants of Ozarow, of people from Ozarow?
Yeah, they're descendants of Ozarow, like grandchildren, but not.
But they don't know too much about it.
No. I am and another fellow, but they weiß den Ganzen nicht, was sie sich mit. He's much older than I am. Somewhere in the States, there's a guy. When was it? When he phoned one guy for me, and he says, "Chris Finoshlev." It isn't as I said, Finoshlev. Who are you, Finoshlev? He says, "No, there's man nicht gedenken kennen." Then I started to talk and I said, "Yes, you Benzia Wacholde."
What is his name?
Benzia Wacholde. He's in the States. I have his address because when we'll go to Florida, he gave me the address. I should step in by them in Florida because we drove by his city. He lived as poor all the years. And I said to him, how could you live like Paul Benzia Wacholde mit der langen Peile, mit the tzitzis, was practically not even practically he didn't speak Polish either. But he is there. But
Where does he live in the States?
Where he is? I got
Okay.
this address.
I'd like to get his address when we're finished so that I can contact him.
He was here a couple years ago. So Rochford phoned me. She says, "Hi, because we're in Montreal, Rochford." She phoned me. She says, "Hi, I'm going to be in Toronto that and that day, and I want to see you. And I will show you somebody else is here also from Moishe." So I met them there. They were in a hotel. They came to us.
Are there many people in Florida from Ozarow that you meet down there?
If I meet people from Moishe,
Maybe not from Toronto, that are in the same area that you're in.
My cousins. She was born in Moishe, but she was 4 years old, 2 years old when she.
Where does she live now?
She lives in Hallandale, the Three Islands, because she lives there about 40 years already. She moved there with 3 kids.
All year.
She lived there. I just spoke to her yesterday. Yeah, but here the best it's a Yisker. She doesn't know about the Yisker. But I spoke to her this week. Kanena Hori, she's terrific with her mind. Do you ever see her?
No. Oh, Sophie? Sometimes.
She's met on everybody in the society. It was her husband's fault. What does she want?
I see her when she comes to a simcha from her nephew's family in Hamilton. And but my cousin is in contact with her, Harold Rochford. He calls her.
She's very good.
Yes.
I don't have nothing against her, but I was happy to see her.
Well, this coming weekend there's a wedding in Montreal that a lot of the family are going to, and it's my Uncle Sam Rochford's sister's either grandson or granddaughter's getting married in Montreal, so they're going.
What's their name?
Hirsch. Jerry Hirsch it's either his son or his daughter that's getting married. But in any case, in Montreal. Yes. There is a fellow in Montreal, David Waxman, who was born in Ozarow and came to Canada. He was about 6 years old. And he's considering going on this tour. I don't know if he's made up his mind yet, but I've tried to convince him to go because he has a memory recall of everything that went on to Ozarow when he was there. and I think he would be an asset to go on the trip with, because he could tell us a lot about his early life in Ozarow. And I thought maybe that you might go on this trip, but I can understand. Yeah. Well,
There is also Schaefer. What he sends me the books.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have to send him a check. I have $200 for him. He sold the books. So whenever I sell, take together not one book, so I can. But I'm constantly in touch with him.
Yeah.
He says that he was 2 years old
when he moved to
when
Canada.
He came to Canada, but he came with his father, the mother, and children. I knew his grandparents
Mhm.
because
Okay.
we were neighbors.
Yeah.
They were by the shoe.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to spend with me.
It's nice
And,
to talk to you. It's nice to see you. And let's
and
look for good occasions.
Right, and I'll be in touch with you when I come back. I'm going to take my camera with me, and I hope to record as much as I can about the little town of Ozarow. And if you give me the address where
Yes.
you lived, I'll try and find it in the house, the home that you lived in.
Shall I give you now the address?
Okay. Thank you again.